Alright, so I'm going to quickly talk about patch 10.5, which comes out tomorrow. So I guess I'll post this vid up tomorrow morning. Um, but we'll quickly go over it. We'll start off with this point. So in 2 weeks, and I'll quickly open my calendar. I believe it's the 18th. The 18th. Set 3 will be released. So they said they were going to do some sort of, well, Riot said they do some sort of a ladder reset, not reset. I'm not quite sure what they're doing with ladder. It seems like they've gone multiple ways. So, or they're trying to like split the difference, because there are people out there who love their ladder resets, and there are people out there who are like, why are you resetting the ladder? This is dumb. I tend to fall more on, why are you resetting the ladder? This is dumb, unless there's a really, really good reason to reset the ladder. A good example might be, Overwatch would be a good example. When Overwatch switched to roll queue 222, I think a ladder reset was probably appropriate to have there, but instead of that, they had some data on how you played respective of your roles and made ratings based on that. I probably would have just done a MMR reset, but that's just my thought. So yeah, set 3, 2 weeks, comes out on the 18th. I'll probably do a review of what I think of set 3 based on just what I've read and a couple of the games I've seen so far. I'll probably do that in 2 weeks. So let's go on and quickly talk about some of the changes they made for patch 10.5. To start with some trait changes. Blade Master proc went up 5%. Yeah, Blade Master is not as good. It's still okay, but it's not as good. Blade Master is basically Yasuo carry or Master Yi carry. Master Yi is not as good as he was because of the last nerf he took, but it's mostly this is okay. You're just gonna run just I've run just Yasuo and it's been fine. Electric damage, so just a minor buff to the tier 3 electric. Probably doesn't mean much. You're going to notice a theme on this patch is probably doesn't mean much. Same thing with Glacial. Glacial at the 3rd tier was kind of weak, so they buffed it by 25, which is kind of weak. Can't really say much about that. Champion balance. Diana gets a little buff to increase her shield up to 4 seconds, which is a good buff because she's kind of... Diana's been kind of weird. I know in previous versions, Diana was really, really good and was one of those 1-star egg roll carries, but now she's kind of like meh. But people still egg roll her, and she's kind of okay-ish. Not great. But this will actually really help her out in the early game, where I think she could be more useful. Leona shield duration going from 5 to 4, because Leona is probably the best tank in the game right now, especially in the early game. For some reason, we're bringing Zyra total mana down to 65. I don't know why. Zyra's so up and down. Like, you can put down a Zyra, you can egg roll Zyra, you can get Zyra up to 3-star and just laugh as the massacre she makes. That said, she's pretty easy to take out. This makes her much better in the early game, is what I'd say. But in the late game, I mean, you're already just proccing plants all over the place. Odds are, if you're still carrying Zyra. Syndra is getting a buff, which, especially the 1-star variant. This is actually a pretty good change for the 1-star variant, because Syndra, basically, Vigar's, not Vigar, the water vampire dude. Man, name escapes me. Pretty sure. Vladimir. Vladimir was basically better than Syndra, and Vladimir was a tier 1 unit, while Syndra was a tier 2 unit. So this will hopefully help. I mean, Syndra's real problem is that her AoE is really small. I probably would have settled for increasing her AoE. Yasuo getting a nerf goes with the Blade Master proc buff. So this translates, if I am correct, into one more auto attack that you need to do a Yasuo alt. If you haven't noticed, it's particularly on cloud maps, Yasuo carry is really good. I've done it a few times. So this probably evens him out a little bit. Tier 3 units, Azrael, minor buff to tier 1, minor buff to 1 star, Karma gets, how do I want to put this? So, they nerfed the 1 star and the 2 star and buffed the 3 star, which in general is probably how a lot of things have looked this season, that the 3 star abilities really aren't that great, particularly on like tier 1 through 3 units, but the stats were kind of obscene, and Karma was kind of the same way. So 1 star Karma, 2 star Karma, like these numbers are gigantic. Meanwhile, this is like on curve, which in reality isn't really on curve because you need 6 more Karmas to get this buff, whereas to go from here to here you only needed 2. So this kind of curve makes a bit more sense, but these numbers are not as dangerous as these numbers. These numbers are still dangerous. These numbers just could outright murder people, and it's dangerous. Next up, Nocturne getting a buff. I think the real significance of this is probably at the 2 star level. Nocturne is in a bad spot because they beat him into the ground because of Blender and the fact that he was bugged on his 3rd attack. So they kind of destroyed him until they fixed that bug, and now they're trying to work him back up a little bit. This is actually a good change, I think. He's probably still one of the weaker assassins, but this probably does help him in the Predators build, where you're going to run a Nocturne to get 2 steel. Moving on up, Janna's healing is increased a little bit. More relevant was a couple patches ago where they buffed Janna's stun, and I've significantly noticed that and have realized Janna is actually really, really good now. It's just hard to find good builds with her unless you're going to run Yasuo. Twitch is getting a buff because Poison got... Like, a lot of people were complaining about this, but the reality is they kind of destroyed Poison, so they decided to give Twitch a buff to make Rangers okay. And Rangers is... I know Rangers is generally considered to be one of the better builds in this game, but it's a very fickle build. It requires very exacting itemization. So I think this is fine. Other adjustments. So the 3-star variants of some champions got some changes. So Diana, like I said, the Diana change before, the 3-star Diana now gets 6 orbs rather than 5. That's a little bit better, but you're in egg roll territory when you start talking about tier 1 3-stars. So, yeah. Same thing with Zyra. When you get up to the 3-star level, you're just like proccing plants all over the place. Rek'Sai, this one is interesting to me. In my experience playing the Predator Hyper role, it's generally better to have Rek'Sai over Warwick. Mostly because you can get Steel. And by having Steel, you increase your survivability, better chance of proccing the Predator buff. Since Glacial became a thing, Warwick got a little bit better. He's probably still not as good, but in general, Rek'Sai is just kind of a placeholder for that 3rd Predator that you want to be running. So what they did was they buffed the 3-star damage, because it's not uncommon to get 3-star Rek'Sai in a Predator Hyper role. He's usually not the one you actually want. You usually want Skarner and Cog, but sometimes you'll just get a 3-star Rek'Sai along the way. This is a shitload of damage. This is 100k damage. Or 100k. This is 1k damage. It's quite a bit. This is a pretty significant buff to him. It makes hyper rolling and getting a 3-star Rek'Sai not feel as terrible. It was good before, but it was more good because he got more durable and he was steel. But now that you can actually get some damage on him, he's a little more relevant to the game. Mundo got a buff, like I said before. They nerfed he got a buff at 3-star. He got a nerf through the poison nerf that I called out on Twitch before. So Mundo's been kind of really weak. This doesn't really change much because it's just a 3-star variant, and Mundo's already a tier 3 unit. It's slightly uncommon to get him to 3-star. Zed. So, a lot of people have been asking, what the hell does this mean? This means you have lots of Zeds. This means you have lots of Zeds. I've seen it. This means you have lots of Zeds. So essentially Zed comes in and summons Zed. It's actually obscene how many Zeds you can get off 3-star Zed. I'm not going to complain about it because it's 3-star Zed. If you 3-star a tier 5 unit like Bravo Mate, you put that video on YouTube and get billions of subscribers. Same thing with the next one to Lux, 3-star Lux. We went from 9999, good old Final Fantasy numbers, to let's add one more 9 onto that. Again, just blasting things out of the sky. Pretty simple, basic stuff. So, that is it. This is the last patch that they're going to release for this set. I kind of want to give some thoughts to how this set ended and kind of give my opinions for it. So right now, I think Shadow is still pretty overpowered. I think Shadow just kind of stomps a majority of builds, and that it's incredibly difficult to come up with a composition that can adequately deal with Shadow. I once had a game where I had triple Zephyr and I still got rolled. It was kind of laughable. I hit the Xion, I hit a Kindred, and what else did I hit? I think I was trying to hit the I was trying to hit the Mouth, and I Malthazar, and I missed him, and I pretty much lost because of that. Had I hit the Malthazar, I probably would have won that round. But Shadow in general is clearly one of the best builds that you can run right now. The other key, in my opinion, to the meta and the game right now is those tier 3 units. You can build and shift your builds a lot around your tier 3 units. I can't state this enough. Kindred, Azir, what are some other ones? I would say Xion, but Xion's kind of odd in that he fits like into 2 builds you just try to get 6 of, but he's kind of like that as well. Sivir, like there are so many tier 3 units in this game that basically determine what build you should be running if you can find a 2-star of them. The big one being Kindred. If you get a 2-star Kindred, you should top 4 pretty much any game. Because Kindred can pivot into Shadow, Kindred can pivot into Inferno, Kindred can pivot into Ranger. Kindred is incredibly versatile. And that is what kind of this set has boiled down to is, do you get an early Kindred tier 2 and move on from there? There are a few other things that I think this set has kind of gone around. There's a lot of champions that when you get the right build on them, they're some of the best units in the game. But when you don't get the items for them, they're some of the worst units in the game. When I say this, I usually think of Zed. Zed's kind of the perfect example. Zed in general is probably the single worst tier 5 unit in the game. Just plainly the worst tier 5 unit in the game. But you start optimizing him with like a light trade item or a GA or a redemption, then Zed becomes a nightmare because he just procs all of his items repetitively over and over again. But you try to give him anything else, and he's pretty awful. Other example would be back when we had Blender, and you're running Nocturne and giving Nocturne all these items to make him just swing, swing, swing away. Yet Nocturne in general is kind of crap without being a Blade Master. And that also became a theme this set, was getting Blade Master items to make things Blade Masters and watching Blade Masters swing and murder everything. But I digress. This set, I kind of wish the meta had... I think the biggest issue that I have with this set was that there really were not enough tier 1, like, just get 2 champion buffs synergies. I feel like if this set had more of those, you could see more customization in your builds, because right now most of the really good builds are just roll to get 6 of a single origin, a single class. And I kind of find that a little sad. I really like having a lot of customization. I like the Cloud origin. I like the Desert origin. These 2-4 origins. I like the 2-4-6 a lot more than I like 3-6-9. 3-6-9 is just a pain in the ass. It's so hard to get just 6 most of the time. And most of that's probably because the Lux is in the set, so they have to balance out for Lux. But I would much rather see more synergies that are 2-4-6 or 2-4 than I would like to see 3-6. So, and I'll kind of get into that next week when I do a preview on set 3, because I'm going to be honest, set 3 does a lot of that, and I am quite pleased that set 3 has moved more to 2-4-6 over 3-6-9. So that'll about do it. That's my closing thoughts on patch 10.5 and overall most of set 2 that I joined in and started playing. So hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go and start streaming out some of the games. Yay!